Welcome back to another episode of The Balance Beam. We are here today with another exciting guest, and I must say a special treat for you wonderful Beamers. I'm very, very excited. Today on The Balance Beam, we have the opportunity to chat it up with a man. Remember last month with Allison Tibbs, I noted that for some odd reason we hadn't had any fearless men on the beam. We caught one. Bryan Brown is as fearless as they come. Bryan is a business leader with some serious time in on the entrepreneur circuit. He's owned and operated a trucking company, bought into several franchises, and has been the lead consultant in several successful mergers. There are two high-profile companies in particular, but because of confidentiality, we will not say specifically who they were. Just know that they are awesome, they are good, they are known, and he did a great job. Now, Mr. Brown is the CEO of T.A.C.T, which stands for Tact Officials Consultation and Business Management Firm. Welcome to the Beam, Bryan. We are so excited to have you here. I have to stop using excited, from last time. I get in trouble for that. But I'm going to say it again. I'm excited to have you. Welcome, Bryan.
I'm ecstatic to be on.
Thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your new firm, T.A.C.T, that just launched last month? Tell us who they are, what they do, and who you serve.
Oh, well, we are a consulting firm. We help build, manage, and educate businesses. And basically what we do small businesses and mid-sized businesses. Not so much, bigger businesses right now. Our whole goal is to help businesses become more successful than the statistics prove. Most businesses, especially small businesses, only last between 3 to 5 years. And we're pretty much looking to increase that statistic and make businesses a little bit more successful.
Absolutely, and I know we need it because businesses are closing, like 80% are closing in the first, 3 to 5 years?
Yes. And it's because of lack of education or because of the fact that I have a passion, I have a gift, I have a talent, and this is what I do best, but I don't know how to manage the back office portion of it well. I don't know how to manage my finances. I don't know how to manage my staff. And because of that, sooner or later, the business, it fails. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people are very talented. And if they just had a little bit more knowledge or a little bit more guidance, then they could be more successful.
And what about those networks and those connections? Does T.A.C.T link people to the other resources they need, or are you the resource?
We are the resource, but we're building a network of resources. So therefore, if we have a wedding planner and someone who has an entertainment group, we can link these two individuals together so that they can support one another and help build on things, as opposed to saying, okay, well, I'm a small business and I need to reach out to someone who's already established. No, well, I have a small business. They have a small business. Let's get together and help establish one another.
That makes a lot of sense. I talk a lot about strategic collaborations and the power in the numbers. Of course, you always have to really understand who you're getting in bed with, make sure you've done your due diligence, make sure you've checked all I's and dotted I's and crossed T's, whatever that lingo is. I'm always messing up with that. Because you and I have both had experiences where not checking the background of those people that we are collaborating with has pulled us into some not so great places. So what does T.A.C.T do to kind of assure that client A and client B are not just a good fit from a resource perspective, like you said, the event planner with the wedding planner with the caterer, those three different businesses kind of coming together to support each other and go after those larger, more sustainable contracts. But do you do anything where you do a really detailed need assessment or interview with those clients to kind of make sure they are who they say they are?
Well, we do a process like that. What we do is we sit down with the business. We have a form, a consultation form, kind of like when you sit down and you fill out a job application. Mm-hmm. So it tells us about the business. It tells us where they are, whether they're legitimized, exactly how long they've been in business, whatever it is that they may have or may not have. They give us that information. From there, we research the company, research the information, make sure they have the proper paperwork that they say that they had, we get the copies. We make sure we investigate the client very thoroughly so that while we're working with them, if we were to refer them to anyone else, because of the fact that not only are they representing us, but they're one of our clients. So we can't represent someone who isn't fairly legitimized. So with that being said, we are kind of, if you will, the test subjects for any clients that we bring on before we link them with anyone else.
That makes sense. Absolutely, because you want to make sure that, like you said, they're not just representing your company, they're representing themselves. So they're a banner, kind of a sales force for your company when they go out, and you don't want just anybody being a banner for you. Client or no client, you want them to represent well because it's going to speak to what your firm does when client A goes out and says, yeah, we work with tax officials and they helped us do this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, word on the street is company A is not a real company, that they're not serious about their business. So it's very, very good, and I'm grateful to hear that you do your due diligence and make sure that they're on the up and up. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, without research, there is no success at all. I mean, like you said, I've had my past experiences with just taking someone's word for it before I had any experience in business, just put my feet in the water, just saying, okay, well, I'm excited. I want to be a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. I can trust this guy. Well, if you said that this is what you do, then I can trust that this is what you do. And it's not a very good outcome at all.
No, it really isn't, and it can lead to all kinds of nonsense. So I'm glad that we've grown. We had to have those experiences because we didn't have people that would lead us. We weren't raised by entrepreneurs. We didn't have that background just from our previous conversations and discussing with you. I know that to be true. So that's a really good thing. But I do have to ask you, because the balance beam is all about balancing in your business. So I'm curious, you've walked this walk for a while. You've had some grit, like I said earlier, in the entrepreneurial circuit. You are not new to starting a business. You've done this before. You've started businesses, sold businesses, got out of businesses that have failed. You've grown from that. You've learned from that. You've moved on. How are you doing that and balancing your family? Because with each new level, there's a higher stake. There's a new risk you're taking. Your wife, I know her name is April. I know she's like, okay, here we go again, another business. And although she gets to reap the benefits of those great businesses and the money that comes in and, of course, the consequences of money that's lost attached with that, you also have a wife and some kids. So how are you balancing tax officials, which just birthed last month, and maintaining your family?
Well, with having everything that, with my prior endeavors, how I keep focused, one, from, just saying, okay, well, I failed, how do I pick up, or, what it is that I do. I believe that failure is the stepping stool to success. Mm-hmm. So keeping that in mind, me and my wife, we have some limitations. One of the things I know from being in school, learning how to manage your time, how to make schedules, how to do different things is highly important. When I first established my trucking company, I wanted to make money so badly, so quickly, that I neglected my health. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sleeping very often. I wasn't eating very often. It was always just, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to be here. And it affected not only me, but it affected my family. So now I have certain days a week that I do things. And because we are a Christian-based group, mm-hmm. we do not work on Sundays. Mm-hmm. So Sundays, no matter what it is, we don't take calls. We don't do emails. We don't do anything because Sundays is our day off. Right. So that's one of the things that I established, not only for God, but for family. The next thing I established was, okay, well, when we have our calls and when we do different things, okay, it has to be a cutoff time. Business has to do this. And I have to, because me being the CEO, I have to learn how to leave my phone certain places. So it will be times where I have to turn it off. It will be times I have to leave it in the glove box. So it just shows you it's God first, my family, then my business. So as long as you keep that in order, and as long as, me and my wife keep the communication open, we have 3 children, and over the weekend, we shared responsibility. Although I had some things to do on Saturday, me and her shared responsibility. So it's, okay, I do this now, and then, okay, well, from this hour to this hour, I'll be working on a business project. So as long as we keep our lines of communication open, she'll come to me. She has learned over the years to say, okay, well, listen, Bryan, I think you're doing too much over here, and I think you need to slow down a little bit. And I respect her opinion because there's been many times that she has told me things that I haven't listened to, and it ended up being exactly what she said it was. So as long as I keep it God first, family, and then business, just making schedules and keeping everything, I have 3 different devices. I made sure that a lot of people don't do this, but what I made sure that I've done is I have a personal phone and I have a business phone. And I also have my personal laptop and I have my business laptop. So when things need to be cut off, it can be cut off. So, I mean, as far as just having balance, I learned a lot from one of my first semesters in school, just making schedules and planning things ahead of time. Most jobs, they give you a schedule a month in advance. They do that so that they can plan and let you plan your life around it. But we don't do that in our everyday life.
Absolutely.
If we start to do things like that, then we can balance things more appropriately.
Absolutely. Now, I'm laughing at you because you sound like me. Typically, my husband will definitely be the first partaker of I told you so moment. He definitely throws it back at me 100% of the time with, I did tell you, babe, that you shouldn't do it this way. I told you before to be mindful of this. I told you before. And I might have to hear it 5, 6, 7 times from at least 4 different people, including myself, especially during my prayer and devotional time, and even more when I'm just reading or writing or see it in an article. Then I'll come back to him like, yeah, remember 4 months ago when you told me that I shouldn't do it that way? So I had to laugh at that because I could definitely share in that moment of, typically our spouses, even if they're invested in the business and they're a part of the business, if they didn't birth the business directly, sometimes they can have an outside view, an elevated bird's view that just gives a better perspective than what we can see kind of being in it the way we are. So you made a great point, especially about what I call first fruits prioritization, which is exactly what you said, is making sure that you put God first above everything. If you're not connected to the vine, then everything that you do is for naught. So it's very good that you're doing that. And of course I'm laughing because we have 2 different places in this. So you're the husband in your family, obviously. You're the head of your house, and I'm the wife of my family. I'm the neck of the head of my house, making sure that everything is stable and it gets done. But I definitely lead my husband's following when it comes to our home. And we have a very traditional household, which from speaking with you previously, I know that you do as well. And so there is a difference for entrepreneurs. When you are the husband entrepreneur versus you are the wife entrepreneur, there are different responsibilities, and the weight for care at home is very, very different. So the balance and what it takes to balance can look significantly different. Obviously, what is quote-unquote balance for you in your life, your schedule, your hours, your time with your family looks very different than it would whether I was a man or a woman, just because we're 2 different people, but especially because I'm a woman. So I'm curious, and this is kind of you stepping into April's head for a moment, what do you think goes on in her head, and how does she kind of maintain a sense of sanity knowing that her husband is, let's be clear, you are a workaholic. You've learned to have better balance with that, but you've been a workaholic since you were like 12. So with all that said, she's had to deal with a lot from, late hours to sleepless nights to even when you're home and you're right next to her, you're not really present in that moment because your mind is somewhere else. You're writing, you're drawing, you're on conference calls, you're doing a million different things. And even with, like you said, that better balance of schedule and, taking more time out and not working on Sundays, is there anything else that you feel like you have to do to make sure April doesn't basically make you sleep on the couch every night, especially when you're excited about something?
There is actually. Before, if she were ever to get upset about me working, and I'm like, well, I'm doing this so I can take care of the family, I can do this, and I can, make sure that we're better off. Being as though she is a woman, sensitivity wasn't one of my strong suits at the time. Mm-hmm. So lately, I've been working on that to understand, just for example, of if we were to go out and I was to get a phone call, I would answer. And like I said, sometimes I have to remember not to take my phone with me. And she would say, well, listen, you took a call while we were out. And have to remember not to get upset about that, because in my mind, logically, I'm saying, well, I'm taking this call because it was money. But in her mind, it's you're neglecting what we have to go on. So sensitivity is whether, like you said, man or woman, whether you're the man in the role or the woman in the role, having sensitivity to your spouse, saying that, listen, I know this is going to take a little bit more time from you. Maybe we can make it up here or do this here or do that there, but I just need a little understanding. And sometimes it's not as short and sweet as we would like it to be. Listen, I have to take time from my conference call to go over here, or take time from me doing this project to go over here to make sure you're okay. And sometimes, I wish it would be a little bit more expedient, but sometimes when you're doing business, like a lot of times when you see successful entrepreneurs or, the big CEOs, and they're doing this and they're doing that, most of the time, woman or man, either they're single or they're divorced. And that's because they don't take the time to say, okay, listen, this is my spouse's feelings. I'm stepping on their feelings because I'm doing this, and they want me at this particular time. And I don't have the time right now to say, okay, well, listen, I know your feelings are this, and I care about that, but this is this. But the truth is, for me, without her, I really wouldn't want all this. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for my family, I wouldn't work as hard as I do. I would probably just say, okay, well, let me get a regular 9 to 5 and do whatever it is. I would have my passions and my desires and my aspirations, but I wouldn't work as hard to build an empire. Right now, and it's about, okay, I work hard now, and in a couple of years, I can spend more time with them. So It's really me working towards that so that I can spend more time with them. But without her, I really this wouldn't be a desire for me. She helps me. She inspires me. So it's just a little bit for me to return and say, listen, you helped me in this matter. What is it that I could do for you? And as being a Christian man, it's being a man, period, it's hard because we have pride, but at the same time, being a Christian man, it helps me just to say, my mentors help me, and just prayer in itself helped me to be more in tune with her feelings. So I would definitely say sensitivity towards her feelings is a little bit more that I have to do. So sometimes, I have to, for lack of a better word, jump through hoops.
That's right. And those hoops come with sparkles and vacations and midnight picnics, I'm sure. No, you made a really, really great point, especially about what you said. And I've heard that from people who are not married or in a monogamous and committed relationship at the time that are entrepreneurs. They're working towards the same thing that you're working towards. They're working to get their hustle in, and I don't mean hustle like a side hustle. I mean to hustle in their business to make sure everything gets done correctly, and I mean that from a positive aspect of the word. They're doing that so that when they have their family, they can have more time and not have to grind it out in the way that we've done post having our families, because we had our families first and then, learned all the lessons that we did before we could grind it out in a more effective and kind of strategic way. And that's a definite, I would say that is a mutual feeling for single and married entrepreneurs, that you definitely want to make sure that you're forging your legacy for a reason. For some who are single with or without kids, they're forging everything now so the legacy can kind of take off and they can spend more time. And you already being married, you're forging your legacy so your family has every single thing that they deserve going forward, and they don't have to work nearly as hard in the way that you had to work. We want our kids to work hard, of course, because they learn so many valuable lessons from that, but it's just a very different feeling versus kind of struggling for your toilet tissue and your bread and your eggs than it is for, working hard because they found a new skateboard that they really want or a bike that they want to buy. That's a completely different need and a different hunger, and I applaud you for keeping April and the kids kind of top of mind with that. And segueing from that, I'm really curious. I have a best friend, Chantel, and she's constantly saying, all right, it's me o'clock time. And her husband will say, all right, that's fine, but remember, I'm at me 30. So I'm curious as to, what do you do for Bryan time away from April and the kids? Because you need to refuel as well. It's important to obviously be there, support, and encourage and be sensitive to the needs and time and emotional hunger that your family has, as well as the physical need for your presence. But what do you do for Bryan time?
Sometimes, I'm reading a book that I believe that a lot of people should read, and it's by a Christian author, and his name is John C. Maxwell. It's called How Successful People Think. And one of the things he does, he's a great author. He's become one of my favorite authors. And what I did with that is in his book, he says, listen, you have to make time to think. And thinking isn't easy because of the fact that, it's a job to think. It's a job to come up with ideas. It's a job to do things. So one of the things I like to do for spare time is read books. A lot of people, some people do it and don't admit it. Some people do. But me personally, I play video games. It's a stress reliever. Outside of always using my brain all the time, whether it's coming up with ideas for the business or nurturing ideas for the business, outside of reading my books and everything else, just something just to get away. And I guess you could say dumb down in a way. So that's pretty much. I don't really get much time to do that, but it's something that allows me to relax, let go of life, and something that I really like to do. Sometimes it might sound a little lame, but I take a walk. So just, if I have half an hour, just take a walk, go to the gym, run. Going to the gym really lets off a lot of steam. I run about 2 miles a day. So, working out really allows me to refocus. A lot of people may not think that, but working out really allows you to focus. Your mind is honed in on one situation, one goal, and once you accomplish that goal, once you come out, one, you feel relieved, and two, you feel re-energized and remotivated. So a lot of the times, my favorite thing to do, because I'm there in the morning or in the evening most of the time, is the gym. That's probably my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome, and you're absolutely right. Besides, the what is it called? The endorphins. I can't talk today. The endorphins and all those things that rush through your body and give you more energy and bring more oxygen to your blood cells, which obviously make it easier for you to think and concentrate and focus. And, obviously exercising helps you to drink more water because you become more thirsty. It also makes you want to make better choices with your food. And if you're putting good things in, you get great things out. So that's a really relevant, good me o'clock time thing to do for yourself, and it helps you in your business. So it is directly related to being a better business owner, a better CEO for sure. But first, you have to be well, and I'm really grateful that you were raw enough to kind of reveal with us what you went through when you were the scales were slated in the other direction with your businesses before, and you were putting so much time and energy. You were so focused on the needs of the family at the time in a financial sense that you were risking your health. And at the end of the day, if you're not here, your family could care less about all of those other things. April is not into, a Chanel bag and shoes and Tory Burch and all that. Every woman wants those things if they're nice and they complement their style, but she would much rather have her husband for sure. So it's really good that you understand that and you're taking that time for yourself. And I agree with you too on that kind of what you phrase as dumbing down time. I joke all the time, my downtime is not what people expect it to be. Sometimes I want trash TV. That's all I want. I just want a little trash, not too much, nothing that the kids can't walk by and see or hear for a few seconds or anything crazy. But I don't necessarily want to sit and watch BBC or CNN when I just want downtime. those things make me think too much. It makes me go into, okay, is that a spark event? Is that leading to something that I can help with someone in business? Is that an empowerment moment? Do I need to reach out? Do I need to write an article? My mind is thinking so many different ways in a successful way when I'm doing that versus if I'm just watching trash TV or reading a good, plain, Good Housekeeping or Red Book magazine, just something really simple where I don't have to go into think mode in that same way because it allows my mind to rest. So I 100% agree with you on everything you said. And it's interesting because you're a man. And I agree with you. So that's awesome.
I mean, if you think about it, Jim, essentially your mind is a muscle. Absolutely. And when you go to the gym, I've learned one thing. I went to the gym and I've worked out and I went really hard and hurt myself because you have to let your muscles rest. Your brain is a muscle that needs to rest. So if you're always reading, if you're always thinking, if you're always in meetings and you're always using your brain all the time, you're going to overload and you'll start to I've been there, unfocused, not being able to do certain things because lack of sleep, lack of allowing my brain to rest. If you don't have that situation where you could just say, okay, this takes no effort at all. Let me just sit here, and whether it's an hour a week or 2 hours a week, very minimum time to do something like that. But you have to allow that muscle to rest. Or when you work out, you're breaking your muscles down to build it back up. If you're breaking that muscle down, it will never build itself back up.
Absolutely, and that's what makes the sexy curves. So it's important to make sure you give it that rest so we can do exactly that, because that's important too. There's some vanity, I guess you would call it, in business. When you're a business owner, you walk into a room and they see you first. They don't see your product. If Coca-Cola comes in the room, they see the product, they see the brand, they see all of that before they look at who are the board members behind Coca-Cola, who's making the decision. One, because the brand has, some time in and some grit, and obviously it's been cultivated as such a powerful brand over time. But the reality is you have to stay fit if you're in business for yourself. You don't have to look like a Barbie doll model, and I know that you model as well. And you do really, really awesome at that as well, fashion model and magazines and all that. And you don't necessarily have to have that, but you do have to look good and feel good because it comes across the table as confidence, standing behind who you are first and also whatever it is that you're selling. And we are salesmen. And we don't want to be labeled as salesmen. We definitely, are not taking on the hat of a pushy person by any means. But if you have a product, because you're the business owner, you need to sell it to make money because money matters, right? And your physique, your outward appearance, the way you clothe yourself, you could do it from a secondhand consignment shop. It doesn't matter as long as it looks clean, you smell good, and it fits your body right. But those things really, really matter. So that exercise is truly important. I'm 100% in agreement with it. And you feel different when you don't get it in. Your mind doesn't think as well. You're not as sharp and on it when you're not exercising, whether it's 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, depending on, what it is that you're doing for your schedule and your body type. But it really is important. So I have another question. I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, so Bryan's, he's doing pretty good with balancing family and, he's learned some powerful lessons. He understands what hoops he has to jump through for his wife and making sure that, she is happy at home and all things are going good there. And, you're launching another baby. You're birthing another baby. You're doing great things there. And we know that as an entrepreneur it's an amazing feeling to wake up every morning and do something you love. Even if you are still working in a 9-to-5 or a traditional 9-to-5 at the same time, that's okay. That doesn't make you less of an entrepreneur by any means. I advise people to not do what I did and just kind of jump into that 10 feet because there's a lot of uncomfortability that comes with that drowning feeling, right away before you can start to float and swim and tread some water in the right direction. But I am curious about the other side of family. So, there's more. There's your parents, your grandparents, nieces, cousins, siblings. There's the other level, those friends that are, in African-American cultures, you call that good friend, your brother or your sister. That's family too, even though there's no blood ties necessarily. And when you're a known entrepreneur, when they know that you've had businesses, you have business, you're in and out of different ideas and things that have been successful, and some you walked away because it was a smart decision to do so. Some you chose to walk away from because you were on to kind of the next idea, and some were just not great ideas. There's often this feeling from family members and friends, we'll include them in this as well, that you're never available. Where's my Bryan that, could go hang with me? And I'm not talking about the old school friends before you were married that wanted you to hang at the club or any of that, but just that normal time, that guy time, that football time, basketball time, whatever it is that you're doing with them, or that used to kind of be your clique thing that you would do. But they're worried about that. They feel like they're losing their friend. They're happy for you. I'm not talking about the haters. I'm talking about people who are really happy for you, but still miss their friend, miss their brother, miss their cousin. But they're also still kind of afraid that when you do finally make it to something, when you make it to that reunion, you come to that wedding, wherever it is, minus a funeral, they're afraid that you're going to come in as a salesman because they know that you're into something, that you're doing something now. So there's a lot of consequences that came with the compromises that we make as entrepreneurs, making those sacrifices with our playtime, kind of trimming it down to its core, where there's some in there for your reasonable intervals of personal pleasure you need, but it's very, very little, and your family and friends are frustrated with that and anxious about when you finally come around. So I guess I'm just curious what are some of the experiences that you've had with those compromises and consequences, and how have you handled them, being as though you've been an entrepreneur for almost, nearly 10 years now?
Well, the one thing is this. Before I went to school, because I was a businessman, I was good at business. I found that out when I was working for different companies, and I helped them increase whether it's sales or help them increase productivity, whatever it was. But one of the things, as you said, I wasn't raised in a business. I didn't have any knowledge about it. So one of the things I was lacking besides experience was the education portion of it. And that's why I went to school for my business management degree, so that I can learn the other side of that. But one thing, someone gave me a quote the other day that no one remembers how many times it was a failure to make electricity. They only remember the one success. Mm-hmm. So there was more than likely hundreds of thousands failures at making that light bulb, at making the light bulb work. But no one remembers that. No one cares. No one recorded it. No one cares, because now we have light. But what people don't realize is that sometimes you do have to fail in order to succeed. So when I whether it's like you said, mother, father, brother, whoever it is, one, I'm a very confident person. So no matter what anyone says to me, that is your opinion. Everyone has an opinion.
That's true. That's
your right. That's your title. But your opinion can affect me, because this is what I chose to do. Just like anyone else, you have your path. This is your path. This is my path. My path is a businessman. I just had to put the right equation together to equal my success. So now that I have that, my experience plus my education, now I can say, okay, well, now I am truly ready to be a businessman. No one will ever go to Donald Trump, and say, look, man, how many times have you been bankrupt? It doesn't matter, because he's a billionaire. He's a successful billionaire. It does not matter. He could say, listen, I went bankrupt 100 times, but no one will ever persecute him for that. Now, maybe when he was on his way to that, mm-hmm. he experienced a lot of persecution. But at this time, no one will actually stay on that and say, listen, you failed so many different times. Why are you even in business? Because I have all of this money. I have all of this success. The failure. Have you ever watched it's a cooking show by Chef Ramsay? Yes. He has multiple ones. He has Hell's Kitchen. He has different ones. But one of the things in one of his restaurant shows he said was, by the way, I like food. So one of the things he said in his thing, one of his segments was, you know how many restaurants I had that failed before I got to this point? And nobody knows that because nobody cares. He's so successful. He has so many restaurants. But he had to bring it to their attention. Listen, I'm here to help you make your kitchen or make your restaurant better, rather, and this is what I'm going to do. And you're sitting here and you're dwelling and you're unsuccess when, or failure, if you will, but I failed too. So now I'm trying to show you how I came up out of my failure and made it into a success. And unfortunately, people don't realize that until finally you become a success, and then everybody's like, oh, man, I was behind you. Oh, man, you were my best friend. I told them that you were going to do it. I told them that you were going to do it. But in reality, those are the people that are waiting for you to fail so they can say, well, listen, man, I told you not to go do that. So,
absolutely,
like you
waiting
said,
in the wings.
You will always have your haters. You will always have, that's with anything in life. But you just have to know that you know what you're trying to do. And for this situation, me and my wife were talking about it the other day. In the Bible, it says, God, whatever God gives, it won't be any sorrow with it. So I prayed for my situation. I prayed for my members. I prayed with my wife. I did a lot of praying for my situation. So therefore, listen, God give, God taketh away. So if this is meant for me to do for however long it's meant for me to do, it's meant for me to do it. But in this process, our whole vision, our whole mission statement is to help people. So whatever anybody may say, or if they have the fears that they have, that's their opinions. I don't want to sound cold or heartless, but I really don't care. I mean,
that's not cold or heartless. That's real. that's real. Because at the end of the day, when the more known you get, Bryan, and we know this just from other layers of ourselves, there's always going to be a lot of followers, and I don't mean it in a negative way, just people who admire you, who think it's great what you're doing, who are kind of watching you from the sidelines, as well as the haters. Some of them will follow you too, but just like you said, they're waiting in the wings. They're following you because they're waiting in the wings for you to fail so they can say, I told you so. Some of them are real serious. They're waiting for you to fall in your failure, to walk over to you, to look down on you, to say, I told you so, not just to kind of point it out from the side. So there's a lot that comes with that, and it's a very scary situation for any entrepreneur who's being real with themselves. It's not a good feeling to be unliked on any level, but you shouldn't be doing what you're doing to be liked. That shouldn't be the purpose. And those haters, that conflict comes with the territory of being an entrepreneur. So part of it is making sure you have people who are true, real supporters, those real followers of what you're doing. And when I say followers, I don't mean mimicking what you're doing. I mean just kind of, congratulating you and cheering you on from the sidelines along the way, that are there to comfort you and to help you and to give you encouragement when no one else is. And sometimes that means starting with you first. You have to encourage yourself. You have to be healthy, physically and mentally and spiritually fueled. You have to make sure that your prioritization is right, just the things that you said at the start of our conversation. You want to make sure that all those things are lined up, because then you're built better and you're built stronger to handle the negativity that for sure it's going to come. It's definitely going to come. If it didn't start already, it's going to come. And some with good intentions. Some people are so afraid for themselves, they can't imagine stepping out and, taking the risk and being as fearless as you have been and as you are with your entrepreneurship. They can't imagine that, and they are so afraid for you, but it's really projecting off of their own intense fears. It's really about them more than it is you, but their good intention is, well, Bryan, I just really don't want you to fail. I just want you and April to be okay, and you guys have these kids, and they're in school, and you have private tuition, and, all these things that you're doing. And, it's not all negativity, and some of it really is just, I ain't never think he was going to be anything anyway, like those kind of moments. And you'll definitely get them. I'm sure you got them with modeling. I'm sure you got them with other businesses. But I do have to ask you, how would you advise other people who don't necessarily have the experiences that you have with handling and have built that character of, I don't care. they're not there yet. So what would you advise them to do while they're trying to get strong in kind of dealing with the haters and the conflict that comes with the territory?
One of the things I would say is basically when you get a job, you do all the sacrificing that you need to do to make sure you prepare for the job, you get your resume, you print it out, you spend the money in bus fare or gas money. All that is a risk to go to an interview for a job that you don't know if you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Once you achieve obtaining the job, then you go through the months and the months and the months of doing this, working hard, showing up on time or showing up early even, just working really hard. And then, who knows, the company says, listen, we have cutbacks, we got to let you go. It's the same thing with business. Everything in life is a risk. Nothing is guaranteed. So all I'm doing is saying, or all the individuals that I would be speaking to, all you're doing is saying, listen, I choose to take a risk for myself as opposed to taking a risk for this person over here, whatever multi-million-dollar company that you would work for. Now I'm doing it to empower myself. If my goal is to be just, not to live from check to check or just to have my time, it doesn't have to be, I'm doing this so I want to be a millionaire one day. No, you're doing it to empower yourself. So people don't realize that when they say, well, listen, why would you go into business as opposed to working? Why would you work as opposed to going into business?
Right.
If you look at it, the consequences on both ends are, my wife will tell you, they have the electric bill has always been paid. We have never not eaten. So it's whereas though you're responsible thing. One of the things I would tell any entrepreneur, if you're going to start a business, you make sure you're in the right place before you start that business. Don't say, listen, I'm going to quit my job today and then jump into it and you have no money to fund your business. Now you're just saying, well, listen, I don't have my business license. I don't have any of the paperwork I need. So I really want to start this business. And you quit your job yesterday and now your rent won't get paid. You know what I mean? So you have to be responsible. You have to create a game plan before you do something like that. But as I said, it's a risk just like anything else. Getting a job isn't guaranteed. Even when you're in a union, it isn't guaranteed. Someone today or tomorrow could fire you. Just like if you get into a business, today or tomorrow, it could succeed or fail. But the only difference is when you go to work, you have to apply their rules and say, this is how I'm going to get to the top, or this is how I'm going to get a raise. When you're in your business, you can say, okay, let me assess the situation. I need this much. This is what I have to do to get it. The harder you work, the more you'll succeed and the more you'll benefit. At a job, the harder you work, you could stay in that same position for the next 20 years and you're working hard. The same effort that you're putting in at your business is the same effort that you're putting in over here. The only thing is the benefits are a little bit more conducive to your situation. So if that doesn't instill confidence, everything I do is a positive and negative list. So, okay, I want to start a business. I want to go to work. Okay, here's the positives for starting a business, the negatives, positive and negatives for going to work. So different. If you didn't have workers, you wouldn't have businesses. So not everybody is meant to be a business or entrepreneur, a business owner or entrepreneur. So you just have to, first I would say pray on it. Second, I would say make sure that you're prepared, not just jumping into it. And then third, just analyze your situation. One of the things that I learned in school is called the power plan. Mm-hmm. And what it stands for is prepare, organize, work, evaluate, rethink. And once you prepare and organize, it's basically putting you in place so you can do whether it's work or business. Then while you're working, you're constantly evaluating your situation so it can improve. Then you take your thinking time to say, okay, I evaluated my situation. How can I improve this situation? If everybody lives by those principles, I believe they could achieve whatever it is, the confidence that they would like to have for being an entrepreneur, or whether it's the confidence of trying to achieve being a CEO at someone else's company. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you made great points. And I was just thinking, because you brought up money, which is, money matters. I say that on every single episode so no one gets it twisted or confused. With tax officials, how are you helping new business owners deal with their number one problem, which is the lack of resources?
What we're doing right now is we're putting in place, we're linking with another organization who also, what they do is provide funding. So we're linking with different organizations that will help us with that, whether it's sponsorship or just saying, okay, well, listen, we need to provide that funding. We also have different individuals that we're linking up with now that helps with building business credit and building just the portfolios that an individual would need to reach out and grab those resources and make them obtainable or available to them. So we're not only developing in-house strategies, but we're also developing outside strategies and outside connections that will help people obtain their funding.
That's awesome, because that's going to be something I think any new business owner, or especially someone who's in that pre-plan, pre-contemplation phase where they're going through their power plan principles, as you noted, which is a really, really good, awesome principle, by the way. As they're evaluating that, that's something that they should talk to you about, and I would advise them to do so before they jump into the pool. And if they've already jumped in and they're trying not to drown, then they need to give you a call again, because your team, your half a dozen team members, make sure that everything is in place if they're willing to move forward with the next steps. And I'm sure you'll also help them as a consultant. You'll help them evaluate what are the best steps for them to take altogether.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that when we sat down with one individual who wanted to become an entrepreneur, she was doing some things on the side as far as her business. She was doing some things under the table. She wanted to become legitimized, and she wanted to do this, and she wanted to do that. And one of the things we brought to her was, listen, you have to legitimize your business so that we can move forward and you can do things correctly. Mm-hmm. And her response is, well, how much is this going to cost me? I don't really think I can. Well, if you're not willing to pay for your business, if you're not willing to pay for a simple thing such as paperwork to make sure that you're on the books properly, you're not really trying to get in a business. You don't want to be a business owner, because I can tell you, I had a friend who ran a store. She ran an online store, and she didn't take my advice. She didn't legitimize properly. The people who she ran her funding or her financial through, they had to report the finances to the IRS after she hit a certain amount of number, and the IRS seized her money. Mm-hmm. And she called me in a panic, asking me I can't do anything for you now.
Right.
You did not take the advice of doing things. We have laws. If you don't obey those laws, there are consequences. So if you don't do things the proper way, a lot of small businesses think, well, if I can cut a corner here, I can save me money here. I cannot obtain insurance. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. And it will save me about $1,000 a month. But what it will cost you once you are caught, and you will be, it's not worth it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I'm a big believer. And we say we actually put it on every single invoice to all of our clients. Every single receipt that we give everyone is thank you for investing in your business with Thigpen Professionals, LLC. We make it very clear that it's an investment in their business by working with us, whatever it is, whether it's a $47 a month membership for e-coaching and the Balance Beam program, which is for anyone at a level where they're in that contemplation stage or they've already started and they're just trying to balance their family, which is why we talk about balancing, yourself in your business with your family, with all that, or it's something more along the higher end line where we're doing some actual group coaching, some strategic consulting, some trainings, intensives, or actual private VIP coaching. Whatever it is, we always thank them for investing in their business with our company, because it's a very important thing they can do, which reminds me, I want to make sure that people can link with you. So tell everybody how they can follow up with you. We know you have a website. We know that you're on social media. Give all your links and spell it out so people can follow up with you immediately after this episode if they haven't already started while they're listening.
Well, our website is www.TACTOFFICIALS.com. And our we have Twitter, we have Instagram. Everything is at T.A.C.T Officials. Okay. So it's really simple. Just at T.A.C.T Officials. You can follow us. We're getting ready to launch. One of my officers is actually working on something where it's just a Twitter for me, where business owners can follow me, ask questions, and every week I will be posting something different, a little tip or just a little piece of information that will help you throughout your business. So it's basically talk with the CEO of T.A.C.T. So she's working on that. She should have it launched by the time this podcast is launched. She should have it up and running.
All right, so I would definitely tell people to check you out on Twitter at T.A.C.T Officials. You said you're also on Facebook, right?
Yes.
That is awesome because, people, we want you to ask the questions. That's one of the benefits of listening to The Beam with Walking With Us is we're giving you access to people you probably would not otherwise have access to. Bryan Brown is opening himself up to answer your business questions. He'll take some time with you. I know Bryan is also offering some 20 and 30-minute consultations by phone, and if need be, you can meet in the community, and he'll talk with you more about that at T.A.C.T Officials on Twitter. You want to make sure you definitely ask the questions. Don't sit on the sidelines watching everybody else and being too afraid to move. Find out if it really is your time and get an analysis of where you are in your current power plan stage of thinking. I love that, Bryan. That's a great resource. And make sure that you're ready to move forward productively. And if it's not you and it's someone else, we want you to share the information. So Balance Beamer, this has been another amazing and awesome episode of The Beam where you got a chance to have a raw reveal of balance in business. If you or any other business owners who could benefit from some more balance in their life are coming across this podcast, make sure you don't keep it a secret. Share, push the button, share. Share the link with them. It's on me. It's for free. That's just something I'm throwing in. And make sure you do that. Visit us at thigpro.com to sign up for the Leadership Essentials Weekly e-zine that comes out, and it's packed full of powerful information, including links to this episode as well as Thigpro Quo, our blog, String of Thoughts, the Leadership Toolkit, you name it, it's in there. Everything to equip you with what you need to move forward, especially if you are in your processing or your growing phase. We also love to chat with you at Thigpro on Twitter. It's my favorite place to play, so please come visit us there. And until next time, keep breaking barriers. Bryan Brown, we thank you. You were so awesome. Our first fearless man on The Beam. We're so grateful you were here.
It was my pleasure and my honor. And also, if anyone has any questions and they don't want to, contact us on Facebook or Twitter, on our site, there is on the contact page or contact us. There's a form there where you can fill things out, give your email address, give your phone number, and ask your question, and one of the officers will get back to you.
And that's awesome because that gives a really privatized way of communicating with you if they're not going to direct message you on Twitter or Facebook. So definitely, people, don't hesitate and don't lose out on this opportunity for a complimentary consultation. And again, until next time, while we're walking the beam, just make sure you're balancing and breaking barriers.